Hello there, YouTube friends. It's Logan again. It is about 4 o'clock here in not so sunny Oil City, Pennsylvania, but that's okay because it's that time of season. It's almost Thanksgiving, one of my favorite holidays, and the sun really doesn't need to be out because you know what? We'll be indoors with family and friends, enjoying a nice big meal, making ourselves nice and fat, so that's okay with me. Anyways, last video I left you with was a tour of my drum kit, so now I'm going to show you what I use to capture that sound. Without further ado, the studio. Okay, so the studio is in my parents' basement, but you got to work with what you have, right? Anyways, let's start with the microphones. Up here with the overhead mics, if I can get to them. Let's see if I can zoom in on another one here. So those little bad boys are AKG Perception overhead microphones. Excuse me. And what I like to use those for is exactly what they're intended for, overhead miking. You know, they really pick up a lot of great cymbal sound, a lot of high end, which is exactly what you need out of an overhead microphone. And what's really cool, let me see if I can pull one down here. Well, that one doesn't want to come out. But there's a little switch on there. That is an attenuator switch. That gives us 0 options and negative 20 decibels. I have it on the negative 20 decibels right now. That seems to be what works best for the projects I'm currently doing. So we'll leave it at that. If I need to change it, I can. And underneath here, on my extra floor tom, what I have is an Audix D6 kick drum microphone. Now I have that set up in a special situation for that because that's kind of like my big boomy doom sounding floor tom, so I really want to capture the lows on it, and that's where the kick drum mic comes in. And up above that, let's see if I can get that guy out. That is an Audix F15 condenser. It's part of their Fusion series. If you know you're really looking for microphones on a budget, I would really recommend their Fusion series. Great microphones. I can't say any more about that one for the hi-hat. You know, I could go out and spend $1,000 on a microphone just to capture the hi-hat, but you know, this, I think it was $100, $115, something like that. It works just fine. Then over here, what we have on the toms are Audix D series, and these happen to be the D2s, which those work really well on all the toms that I have. I used to play a bit bigger kit and didn't have enough microphones for each individual drum, so I would kind of mic them in between the drums, and that worked really well. Let's see if we can make our way. You know what? I'll just go up over. Hiding back there, I don't know if you folks can see it. That is the tried and true Shure SM57. That's pretty much the industry workhorse for just about anything. And below that, that guy's kind of hidden down there too, but that is what I believe an Audio-Technica vocal mic, kind of similar to the Shure SM58, pretty sure. No pun intended, but that's all I have right now to mic the bottom of the snare, and it works, so why change it? And then over here, we have a special little bit. I'll get to that real quick. Hiding inside the kick drum is another Audix D6. and we'll explain why it's in the kick drum in a minute. But next to that one, we have this funny looking container here, PVC pipe, I guess you would call it. The the fancy LM Drummer logo. Anyways, the story behind that is I kept listening to all these live shows from the Foo Fighters, and I thought, gee, Taylor's drum set sounds awesome, and how do they get that awesome kick sound out of his bass drum? You can almost feel it coming through the speakers. In every video I watched, they had this little square microphone in front of his bass drum, along with, the initial kick drum microphone. So I did some research, and what I found out is that's a sub kick. So basically what that does, and I'll see if I can pull this out for you. That is a speaker. So you're probably thinking, how does that act as a microphone? And that's what I thought at first too. But it turns out that once you reverse the wiring from the speaker to, whatever you're going to plug it into, that actually reverses its job function. So normally you would think, oh, a speaker, it's going to put out sound. Well, now this one captures the sound. So what I did was look up some plans on the internet on how to build my own DIY subkick. And I ran out to a couple stores. They really didn't have what I quite needed for the exact plans. So I had to improvise. Maybe I'll make another video on how I made this one, but that's what I came up with. And to explain how that sound works is, let's see if I can get it positioned again. The microphone on the inside, the D6, that's going to capture more of where the beater hits on the head. That's going to give you kind of like that clicky sound. Whoops, looks like that guy needs some glue. But that's going to give you that somewhat of a punchy, clicky sound, that real common in metal and rock music and all that kind of stuff. And what this guy's going to do is give you the feeling. So that captures pretty much a lot of sounds below 50 hertz, and that's what kind of hits you in the gut. Sounds real good, rounds out the bass drum so well, and I would probably never mic a kit without one of these ever again. That's how valuable it is. And we'll sneak on over to floor toms. See if I can creep back there. It's kind of a tight space, but what I have on those guys is a pair of Audix D4 series, and those are pretty much designed for instruments like floor toms and stuff that produces a lower frequency. So those are perfect. I mean, all of the Audix mics I have been exceptionally well at capturing the sound of the drum. It doesn't change it too much. It just brings out its nice acoustic sound. And Audix, I believe, makes their microphones with somewhat of a pre-EQ specifically for drums. So if that's what you're really looking for, then I highly recommend those. Now, just a note, I am not receiving anything from these companies. I'm not trying to pitch their products or anything. That's just what I've had for years. And that's what I like going with. If I find something else that maybe works better, then hey, we'll go with that. Right behind us the whole time, this guy's been hiding back here, is the MXL 990, and I use that as a room microphone. And back here, I'm not going to climb behind the kit today, but see if we can zoom in. There is its pair, the MXL 991, and at first I had that mic to the ride cymbal down here, but going through a couple of my mixes, I said, you know what, the ride cymbal's already loud enough as is, the overheads pick it up, we get a little bit of mic bleed through the other microphones on the drums, and the room mic captures it just fine. So I actually don't need that. And with the space being so tight down here, all the carpet, the wood, the goose, sound doesn't travel too well. So I figured why not beef up the ambience of the room by using another mic to capture that sound. And last but not least, we have all the equipment that the sound goes into. These guys I picked up, excuse me, about 2 to 3 years ago now. Well, I'd say about 3 years ago. The top one, the red one, is the Focusrite Scarlett 18i20, and that gives you 8 channels for mixing, 8 independent mono channels for mixing, which is really great for a drum set. And then below that, we have the Focusrite Octopre MK2, which is solely basically just another addition for your main DAW, your audio interface. And with miking a drum set, you really want, I would say, if you can get away with more than the bare minimum, then go for it, because that enhances your drum sound so much. And right now, I think my current set, I'm using, I would say, at least 14 or 15 microphones. So that's almost the whole thing. What I have below that, the power is actually everything here, is a Monster Power Pro 2500 power conditioner. So what you can do with that is, hook up your whole rig, given if you have enough outlets back there, to the power conditioner, and then power it off of that. And it gives you a constant, stream of voltage. So it's really not messing with your sound. You're not getting something that's inconsistent. Nice steady voltage. It also has a meter here that tells you if you have maybe faulty wiring, your ground's okay, you get clean power from wherever you're hooked into. Also tells you if your voltage is out of whack, abnormal voltage. So below that, what we used to dub the Great Pumpkin is the computer that one of my friends graciously built for me. That is a BitPhoenix shell, I believe, running through an AMD processor, dual core. That definitely gets the job done. Plenty of power, plenty of RAM, and all that fun stuff to run all the audio equipment. And over here, got some nice big studio monitors. Those are made by Fostex. I picked those up, I believe, through Musician's Friend. They had a nice clearance sale going on. Got those real cheap. I think the pair was $400 or somewhere around there. Don't quote me on that, but anyways, and there's the monitor that we're looking at too. That's where I do basically all my studio work. And we'll give you just a little tour of the program that I use. It's through PreSonus. It's Studio One, and I believe it is Studio One 2. So we'll just kind of go through here real quick, and I'll show you just a sample of what I've been working on. This is from a demo that we actually did 2 days ago with the metal band that I'm in. So what we did was just kind of record a jam session basically, and go over all of our songs, and then, as you can see, I've taken pieces of those, cut those, and put those into individual songs of their own, so that way I can kind of mix them and have rough cuts of demos and all that neat stuff. Well, it looks like here's another one that needs to be done. So that is my project for tonight. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Always happy to answer those. If you can, like my page, comment, share it, and hope you guys have a great night.